Next, on a jam-packed episode of The Broadway Show, Boy George comes to Broadway, starring in Moulin Rouge, the musical. Plus, The Heart of Rock and Roll is Beating on Broadway, the new musical inspired by the chart-topping hits of Huey Lewis and the News. We got to know the stars, and I got to hang out with a rock legend. I'm Tamsen Fadal, and this is The Broadway Show. Looking for the inside scoop on Broadway's biggest shows and stars? Well, it's all right here on The Broadway Show. I'm Tamsen Fadal. The first ever Broadway revival of Doubt, A Parable, is now open on Broadway with Amy Ryan and Liev Schreiber. Doubt won the Tony and Pulitzer 2 decades ago. We hit the red carpet with the stars opening night.
My Broadway return is nothing. I think what is significant here is John's play coming back 20 years after the Catholic Church scandal and just surprising me with its depth and its ability to transcend the issue that you thought it was about and you thought that was timely.
You know, it's called Doubt, A Parable, and I think that parable is about something really different in 2024 than it was in 2004. I think in 2004, all of these allegations about the church had just come out, and so it had this really ripped from the headlines feeling. Now we're 20 years past that, and our relationship to the truth has been really challenged over the last decade with what's been happening in the world politically, and I just think that the shape of it, even though the text hasn't changed, is really different, and we're figuring that out as we go.
It is a freight train, and you jump on it, and it's going to take you fast and far. So I'm just trying to trust my instincts and the few moments that we did have in rehearsals to share quickly what some of the discoveries are, but really I'm just following the lead of this extraordinary company.
Plays are about ideas, and John writes plays that are about ideas, so Doubt is a must-see.
The Heart of Rock and Roll is Beating on Broadway, the new musical inspired by the chart-topping hits of Huey Lewis and the News, and we got to know the stars.
It is a beautiful romantic comedy in the vein of John Hughes, set in the 80s, inspired by the music of Huey Lewis and the News. And there's a wonderful love story in there that we get to share.
There's hilarity, shenanigans, cardboard.
There's a lot of unexpected things I think you would get in a catalog musical. You might go, hey, the Huey Lewis show. You're going to have a roaring good time.
There's something for everyone.
For sure.
There really, truly is.
This show is a really fun rock and roll show that is unassumingly deep, begs the question, what is a dream deferred, and helps us all to explore second chances.
I storyboarded Huey Lewis's songs and lyrics. I wrote all the lyrics out on note cards. I put them all over my wall. The result was something sort of akin to Russell Crowe in A Beautiful Mind. It was a complete mess. But as I looked at those note cards and certain words jumped out at me, like, hip, power, love, heart, I started to realize, okay, there is a recurring motif in Huey's music, and I need to follow that motif. And then I combined it kind of with, the 80s movies that I love the most, the John Hughes canon. Ferris Bueller and 16 Candles, and just wanted to tell a sweet and accessible coming-of-age story about people coming into adulthood and fill it with heart and humanity and humor.
They say the heart of rock and roll is still beating, and from what I've seen, I believe them.
Let's jump in and talk about the idea for the Heart of Rock and Roll. Where did it come from?
Well, actually, it's my neighbor's son-in-law. It works for Imagine Entertainment, and my neighbor is a big musical theater buff, and we were over there for dinner, and he said to his son-in-law, you should do a musical on Huey's music. And so he said, that's a good idea. What do you think, Huey? I said, well, the proof's in the pudding. You need a script. So they went away with his pal John Abrams, Tyler Mitchell, and they wrote the first draft, and it was actually very good.
Talk a little bit about that. What is it about?
It's really a love story, but it's about a kid who's in a rock band and can't make it for some reason. They can't get signed. So he quits, frustration, gets a straight job as for a corrugated company. Goes from a rock star to a box star. And then he falls in love with the boss's daughter, and he's kind of moving up the company. And then simultaneously, his old band gets the break they've been looking for. They get the tour and the album. They got an album deal. So they go to him and they say, "Hey, come on, this is our dream. We want to do this." And he goes, "Yeah." That's the first act. In the second act, he tries to do both things. And it gets a little squirrely. And I won't tell you the ending,
Okay.
but that's kind of what it's about.
They say the heart of rock and roll is still beating, and from what I've seen, I believe 'em.
Is there any of you in this musical, part of your story?
Well, all of our music, all the music is Huey Lewis and his music, but no, it's an original. It's not about me. There's some stuff because all the music is ours, so there's a certain personality to that I think that Bobby and Cassandra sort of adhere to, but it's not at all about us, no.
So for you to be such a part of this now, I know you said that musical theater has been your salvation in so many ways in the past several years. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, I lost my hearing. I lost my right ear 35 years ago. I have a thing called Meniere's disease that they don't really understand, and my hearing's affected rather seriously. I lost my left ear like 6 years ago, and now I can't hear music. I can't hear pitch. I can't perform or any of that stuff. So that was a very depressing 6 months. I pretty much laid in bed. But you gotta get up. Certainly, you gotta get on with things. And this musical has been a salvation for me in terms of creativity. And the Zen Buddhists say you need three things in life: something to love, something to hope for, and something to do. And I think that's really true. And the hope for and to do are really this musical.
Steve Carell making his Broadway debut this spring. He's playing the title role in the revival of Uncle Vanya. It's a star-studded cast. Take a look.
I'd always wanted to do Broadway. I think most actors want to eventually. I mean, that's a dream. And the chance to be part of an ensemble of such great actors. I mean, across the board, everybody is a powerhouse. And that became even more evident this week at table work. Everyone's so kind and smart and funny, but devoted to unearthing every ounce of this script that we can. It's fun to do that. That's the excitement for me.
Boy George comes to the Moulin Rouge, bringing a little culture to the club as Harold Zidler. Here's Paul Wontorek.
Thank you so much for being here, George.
Thank you.
Back on Broadway. I didn't know if I'd get to see you back on Broadway. I hoped.
I know when I was doing Taboo, I used to have this joke where when I was dressed as Lee, I used to say, everyone said I should be off Broadway. Trust me, I'm off it now. Because we had such a tumultuous, it was extreme. Looking back, I probably wouldn't change any of it. I feel like, I've come here to enjoy it. Which is different to Taboo, because it was, Taboo, we were trying to break something.
Sure.
Which is always much harder. And, I'm walking into this big slapping, screaming show that's working already.
Yeah.
So that's a nice security.
I feel like jumping into something like Moulin Rouge, the only thing I can think is it's like you're running alongside this fabulous glitter train, running alongside of it, and you have to just jump on it. I just can't imagine what it's like for you to enter that.
I just fancied the challenge. It's probably something I wouldn't have said yes to 10 years ago or 20 years ago, but I like being in the game of what I do. I feel like I find working relaxing. I find what I do relaxing. So I'm not someone who ever wants to get through something. That's not my mission. I'm not one of these, we've got 4 shows in the weekend, rolling my eyes. I might have been 20 years ago, but now I'm like, okay, well, let's get ready. Get ready for it. And each show is the opening night in a way. For me particularly, because I'm learning a lot about what's capable, what's possible as a performer. I got into the script in London before I came here on my own. I just learned as much of it as I could. So I arrived with the first half pretty much under my belt. And then there was just stuff to learn. It was more about movement and you go from sort of being like, oh my God, this is really stressful. Where have I got to be? To this is great. 8 shows means you're going to get better at what you're doing.
What is it like when you meet people like me or the members of the company. I mean, you're Boy George. I think you know that. So you walk into a room with a lot of history, and does that just very secondhand?
I don't think I think about it a lot, you know, because I don't know. I can't really.
Yeah.
Because you can never really know what other people think of you anyway.
Right.
All you can really do is be as well behaved as you can. You know, be nice, be charming, be professional, turn up, you know, listen. That's the key thing.
Listening, yeah.
And with a role like Zidlo, it's, you know, the show's written, so there's nothing to change, but you can affect the emphasis in places where, you know, and I watched Eric a lot before I went into the role. I watched him.
Eric Anderson.
Yeah, and I watched him, and I loved some of the things he did, and I sped up some stuff because of him. And, you know, it's about observing and, you know, and then trying to add who you think you are as that character into it. I've been really, really enjoying it.
For tickets and more info, head over to Broadway.com. This is The Broadway Show, and we're back in just a few. The hit songs of Alicia Keys are coming to Broadway just a few blocks from where the singer-songwriter grew up. It's Hell's Kitchen. Of course, she wrote all the music and lyrics for Hell's Kitchen. We caught up with the stars.
I listened to Alicia probably before I knew who she was, in the way that, like, when your dad puts the headphones on the baby bump. Yes, so I've been listening to her since, like, day one, and her music has inspired me so much as an artist, as far as, like, stylistically and even going forward and making music myself. She's just an inspiration. She's such a star, and she's such a beautiful person.
This girl is on fire. This girl is on fire.
To get to sing specifically Alicia's music, which is such soulful R&B, pop R&B, on a Broadway stage is truly like both of my worlds and both of my loves coming together in such a magical way. It's like, it's really unique and it's really special for me. There is a wild freedom inside of this one that's unlike any other opportunity I've ever had. So this is like, it's really special.
Water for Elephants brings a circus to Broadway. It's based on the best-selling novel and hit film. The new musical, directed by Tony nominee Jessica Stone. Here's Beth Stevens with another edition of Building Broadway.
Last season, you had a big hit with Kimberly Akimbo, Tony-winning musical, and now you're back with Water for Elephants, which just feels about 20 times bigger.
Yes, that is correct.
Tell me about tackling this show.
The minute you introduce a train and a stampede and an elephant, you're just in different territory than sweet Kimberly Lovaco's, you know, living room and getting into fights with their parents. Like it's definitely, it's more sort of epic and mythic in scale, Water for Elephants. And it required me to tap into skills that I never had honed before. Like I really had never worked with puppets. I certainly had never worked with circus artists or even circus vocabulary and the circus process, which is different from, you know, a traditional sort of musical singing and dancing. So it's been just a totally different part of my brain and heart than something as also thrilling but detailed and sort of psychological as something like Kimberly Akimbo. So very, very different parts of my brain.
What appealed to you about the story?
The thing that appealed to me about the story was this idea of who are you when you lose everything? It's set in the Depression, and there was such desperation for so many, and then there were some that did just fine. But there was such high stakes for so many, and what kind of person are you going to be if you've lost everything? Are you going to make a friend? Are you going to make a new family? Are you going to save an elephant? Are you going to kill your nemesis? You know, who are you? And some of that, you know, was really interesting to chew on during the pandemic. Having time and space when we were just all locked away and looking at, you know, when your norm is taken away from you. And some people fared fine during the pandemic and some people really, really struggled. And it was a really interesting sort of parallel an insight into that kind of survival instinct.
What was the key to casting the trio at the center of this story?
It's the kind of show that there are so many elements and everybody's a little bit out of their lane. We have circus performers who are singing. We have actors who are dangling from trapezes. We have, people learning how to juggle, people learning how to do crazy lifts. We have people learning how to do puppetry. We have all kinds of people from different disciplines learning other disciplines. So there's just a certain spirit of safe but reckless storytelling that is required.
We're rolling out a new vlog over at Broadway.com, courtesy of the star of Water for Elephants, Isabel McCullough. Check out this preview.
I'm going to take you backstage today as we prep for our first preview.
Grant, how are you feeling about your Broadway debut tonight?
Wonderful.
Wonderful?
Yeah.
What are 3 words to describe what you're feeling right now?
Wonder.
Uh-huh.
Full.
Uh-huh.
Okay, everyone. Feeling.
I'm feeling legendary leading lady vibes. Let's go.
We're going to be right back. It's time to take a walk with a Broadway star, and this time it's one of the stars of Chicago. Let's go ahead and send it out to Charlie Cooper.
Thanks for letting us walk you to work. We're headed to the Ambassador Theater. You've stepped into the role of Fred. What's it been to just make that role your own in such an iconic show?
It has been so much fun. Honestly, I've seen Chicago a number of times. It was one of the first things I saw when I did a school trip here in New York City. I'm from New Hampshire originally, and it's sort of the actor's dream, especially having more of a dance background when I first came here. It's so special, the history in that theater and within the cast, the company, the stagehands, the crew, the orchestra. There are some original players in the orchestra still playing today.
Insane.
There are some cast members that have been there for 26 years. Like, it feels like a time capsule in the most special way. And getting to kind of reimagine Fred has been so fun. And now I get to do it with Ariana, and that's so special and so cool. She's so smart. And I honestly cannot imagine jumping into a role like that in a show like this.
Yeah.
And it being your Broadway debut. I do this all the time, and when I joined Chicago, my first show, I was terrified. It never gets easier. Never gets easier.
So you do this 8 times a week. What do you listen to on your walk here? Or are you listening to anything?
Okay, well, I'm Kelly Clarkson super fan. So it's Kelly for me. It's just Kelly for me. Kelly Clarkson, I love you. And I'd love to be on your show. In any capacity, I'll clean the floors.
We've made it to the Ambassador Theater.
It never gets old.
Never gets old.
No, walking into a stage door is seriously the best gift. I've been here now almost 10 years, which is insane to me. And it's my 9th Broadway show. And every time I walk into a stage door, no matter what theater it is, and every show I've been in has been in a different theater, which is kind of cool. So I've really gotten to see all the different stage doors, and it's just the best feeling ever.
Are you Broadway's biggest fan? Well, now is your chance to show us and win a trip to New York City to experience all the magic of the Great Bright Way. It's pretty simple. All you have to do is send us a short video, no more than 60 seconds, proving why you're Broadway's biggest fan. Then upload it to your social media and submit it to Broadway.com. You may win round-trip airfare, hotel accommodations, 2 tickets to 3 Broadway shows, 2 invites to the Broadway.com Audience Choice Awards, and a whole lot more. You can find out all the details of our Broadway's biggest fan contest over at Broadway.com. Good luck. You've got just a few months left to check out A Beautiful Noise, a Neil Diamond musical. The show wrapping up its run at the end of June. Amber Ardolino plays Marcia Murphy in A Beautiful Noise, and Amber is doing a vlog for us over at Broadway.com. It's called The Denim Diaries.
We are finishing this show, we are hopping on a plane, and we are going to go spend our day off in Miami.
Thank you, Armuna.
the day somewhere.
The sun.
Yeah. My sun, my beach. And now we're getting on a plane. We're gonna go to New York. And then we're gonna go do a show at the Broadhurst Theater tonight.
And that's going to do it for us. But for tickets, or if you want to check out extended cuts of all these interviews, head over to Broadway.com. I'm Tamsin Fidel, and this is The Broadway Show.